So for me, this little thing right here was so enormous because what it did is, and it gave us as pastors like a new scorecard. And it gave us like our own little mini parish. And when we started to do this in our own lives, and then we started to give it to our people and allow them to live it out in theirs, we gave them a parish too. And we gave them a new scorecard. And it was so stinking attainable that people actually did it. Like the biggest leadership lesson for me in this whole deal has been like, my whole life people just said, Dave, set the bar high. Like good leaders set the bar high. And maybe that's true. If like we're a team of 4, or maybe like we should have a high bar and people will come close to it or get over it. But if you want to start a movement, the key isn't to set the bar high. The key is to set the bar so low that people can't crawl underneath it. Now think about that. If you really want to mobilize a lot of people, you better make what you're asking them to do the most as attainable as possible. And the more attainable it is, the more people that'll actually do it. And also, it's like integrated to their faith. Like as believers, like, do you think we should like be the kinds of people that know the names of people that live around us? Do you think we're the kinds of people that should be like living like a half step below the surface level? And what would that actually look like in a city like this? I mean, if just the faith leaders in this room said, I'm going to do this in my own life, if that's all you did, the fruit that would come out of this one gathering would blow your mind. Because you wouldn't be able to not talk about it. And so that was a big deal for us, is that we fell into this little tool that made things very, very doable and that was very, very concrete. And it was right in line with, it's like right in the sweet spot of like what Jesus said to do. And we just found that if we could help people stop making excuses, and I've heard almost all of them, I think. Maybe every once in a while I hear a new one, but it's always the same stuff. You don't know my neighbors. They're unhealthy people. They're weird. They're mean. They make bad decisions with their life. They're addicts. I've heard it all, okay? But like if we just, or like, I don't know, I just don't have time to be around. You don't know how busy I am. Do you know how much stuff I've got going on? Really? Like, let me see your calendar. You don't have time to like learn your neighbor's names? And so we didn't ask people to love their neighbor when we started to do this. We didn't even ask them to like their neighbor. All we asked them to do is, would you be willing to learn and retain and use your neighbor's names? Now, it was a Trojan horse to get them to do all kinds of other stuff, but it was, but we didn't ask them for it. We set the bar. All we did was just set the bar. So we did it. We did like a joint sermon series. After we started to see this as fruit as pastors, we started to see, wait a minute, like this guy's leaning towards me. Like this person, I thought he thought I was really weird because I'm a pastor, but he actually lingered in his front yard to like spend more time. Like, so we started to see some of this fruit in our own lives, and then we decided and that little exercise, by the way, when we all did, as pastors, when we did the tic-tac-toe board, we were just really convicted, and it felt horrible. And so our thought was, let's make all of our people feel as horrible as we did in that moment. And I do want to say this seriously, like there's a big difference between shame and conviction, and it's really easy to shame people into get to doing things. We all know that. But like conviction is healthy. And it is really convicting for those of you in this room that just went through this, when you look down at a piece of paper and realize, I don't even know my neighbor's names. They're not even important enough for me to remember their names. And I think that's a healthy conviction. That's what happened to me, is that there was a conviction there to say something's really wrong. And our people, we created a crisis for them too. So we did this sermon series in our city for 3 weeks. We did the block map every week. We did the block map, and we said, hey, we're just doing this little exercise each week. And then one of the most interesting things was this. 4 months afterwards, we did something during the announcement time. So all these churches, we said, hey, let's do like a pop quiz. Let's take 2 minutes during the announcement time, and let's do the block map. This is 4 months later. So and it was so fascinating. In my church, I walked in, and people like looked at the card, and they're like, what are you doing? This is like we did this sermon series a long time ago. Like we have our people so trained, at least maybe your churches are better than mine, but like we had our people so trained from like, hey, isn't this series great? And guess what? The next one's going to be even better. And then, so we just get them going from series to series to series that it like shocked them that we actually went back to something that we had talked about, like something this concrete. And so for 2 minutes during the announcement time, we said, hey, we're going to do a pop quiz. And we had everybody get out their pen and paper, and we said, would you just be willing to write down your neighbors' names? And they start writing down their neighbors' names. And then we said, will you hold up your card in the air if you've learned at least one name in the last 4 months? And I'll estimate low, like over half the room, like not over half, over 80% of the room has their cards. These cards just sitting up in the air. And it happened in every church all around our city on the same day, and we all had the same thought. Oh my goodness, people actually did something because of what I said on a Sunday. And we all came back going, the email said, well, you're not going to believe what happened. Like almost everybody in my church actually has done it. Now, it was really low bar, right? It was like learn a name, but like just that. Like, can you imagine if in your whole city, like the people that you're talking to actually go out and do something that's similar after a Sunday when you talk about it? Yeah, that's what we had. Like, that shouldn't be like a radical thought. That shouldn't be as encouraging as it was. But man, it sure was encouraging. And we just keep going back to it. Because the only part that we've added to it is that we just say, once you've filled in this block map, by the way, if those people that don't want to be your friend, don't go stalk them, okay? Like Jesus talks in the same chapter, he talks about person of peace. There's like a whole biblical thing about this. So don't go stalk them, but look for the places where there's open doors and just pray this prayer, like, God, what's the next small step that you want me to take with one of my neighbors? And if you create time for people to pray that prayer, and to have a moment of reflection, and to actually just write it down, you'll be shocked at how often they'll do it. And what we didn't know, we were falling backwards into a lot of the study around behavior patterns and habits that it's out. So there's a book called The Power of Habits. There's a book called Tiny Habits. There's a book called Hook that Eric turned me on to. There's this whole wave of study around how do people actually form habits. And if you're a church leader, you should be reading all of that right now. If our goal is to disciple people and to help them form spiritually and the kind of people we want to be, we should actually understand how habits work. And so what we did is we tapped into all that on accident. We helped people identify and declare small attainable goals that built on one another. And in doing that, we just started to see this fruit grow in our community.